As many of you already know, the Mace kit recently received a major update. In this video, I'll be explaining why I believe this change harms both the Mace community and the overall health of the game mode. The reasoning provided for this change stated that the goal of these changes was to quote-unquote fix most of our ongoing issues with match length and competitive matches taking multiple hours to complete. Most Mace players would agree that matches shouldn't take hours and that addressing this issue is important. However, the way the admins chose to fix it has created more problems than it solved. The first change to the kit was the removal of 16 Ender Pearls, which in my opinion was a reasonable change. It slightly limits excessive Pearl usage, both for escaping and spamming Pearl catches. However, this is only a 25% reduction, which means the impact on gameplay is minimal and not particularly game-changing unless playing ultra aggressive. The second change made in this update was the removal of the elytra conservation bug. Elytra conservation was unnecessary and really annoying to deal with. Removing it significantly reduces the aerial drain meta, a strategy mostly responsible for the excessively long matches and high-tier Mace gameplay. This change reduced elytra durability from practically infinite to roughly 7 minutes of flight time, enough to shorten matches to around 20 minutes or less, a much more reasonable length. The third and problematic change in this update was the elytra durability being reduced from 432 to 100, which completely overcorrected this issue. This cut flight time down to just 1 minute and 39 seconds, a 77% reduction. In a single update, the elytra went from virtually indestructible to nearly unusable. A change this large would be comparable to if the vanilla tier list reduced the anchor limit from 64 to 15. A reduction by the same factor, with the reasoning that anchor spam has become the dominant meta and we think it's unskillful and bad for the game. A change like this would undoubtedly cause a massive uproar in the vanilla community, as almost all high tier players would have to completely relearn the game mode to accommodate these changes. Likewise, such a drastic nerf to the elytra forces the majority of high tier Mace players to relearn the entire game mode from scratch. This has already happened once before in Mace, albeit on a much more minor scale. Think back to the controversial Ender Pearl change, an adjustment that only made existing techniques harder, not impossible, as this one does. Even a tweak that minor caused frustration and alienated longtime players. However, this new change is far worse. It doesn't just make certain strategies weaker, it eliminates the dominant playstyle entirely. It fundamentally alters how the game mode is played. Beyond balance issues, the change caused several incongruities between the elytra and the other items within the kit. For example, wind charges, used mostly for flight at high levels, number 128 in the kit. For wind charges and elytra durability to deplete at the same rate, each wind charge would grant less than 1 second of flight. This is, of course, very far from how long wind charges actually allow you to fly for. With full durability elytra, each wind charge offered nearly 4 seconds of flight, a far more logical ratio. The new numbers simply don't add up and highlight the lack of internal balance or consideration behind this change. Another major issue is that this update unintentionally turns Mace into something it's not. If elytras are expected to break in under 5 minutes, players are effectively switching from a Mace with elytra kit to a completely different kit mid-match. There's already a separate tier list for elytraless Mace, so this change doesn't help anyone. It just punishes the players who enjoy the elytra-focused gameplay. In short, it satisfies no one and alienates nearly everyone. Perhaps the most disappointing part is how these changes were implemented. The broader community, staff, testers, and high-tier players with hundreds or even thousands of hours of experience had no say in the process. This update was made and pushed live by Marlowe alone. To be clear, this isn't meant as a personal attack. Marlowe has done incredible things for the Minecraft PvP community, but in this case, she bears responsibility for these poorly handled changes. And while this next part is speculative, it is difficult to ignore the timing. It feels almost as though some of these recent updates were designed specifically to nerf Alien Overdose, who recently reached High Tier 1 just 2 days before this patch. Consider the pattern. The Pearl update a few months ago nerfed aerial playstyles, the style Alien mastered. The forced move to PvP Club, where mechanics differ from Cat PvP, put him at a disadvantage as he was not as used to mechanics of PvP Club as he was to Cat PvP. Now, this durability change removes his playstyle entirely. After playing over 25,000 games and becoming unequivocally the best Mace player in the world, Alien's entire skill set has been rendered obsolete overnight. That's not healthy balance. That's indefensible. No sport or competitive scene would tolerate rule changes that invalidate years of a player's skill. Why should we? In summary, these new Mace kit changes make the game mode less competitive, create logical inconsistencies between elytra durability and utility items, destroy established metas and playstyles, target certain players unfairly, force veterans to relearn everything they've mastered, and were implemented without community consultation. The elytra conservation fix alone was enough to shorten match times. The durability reduction went way too far and should be reverted. Many players and even staff members have already threatened to quit or resign in protest, and with good reason. We can't allow the core identity of Mace to be rewritten without our voice. Protest the new changes. Let your voice be heard. Don't let our game mode be taken away from us.